Alright, it's the first video of the new year, and we are ready to talk about Pokemon TCG's new generation of cards finally coming out in March of 2023. But before we get started, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we talk about Scarlet and Violet, the newest Pokemon TCG era. Tons of different changes to the set, everything you need to know, and even some of the new secret rare / art rare cards that are coming out in the set that are presumably going to be chase cards. So, today we'll just give you kind of a general overview of all of the news that has broken over the past few months, so that you are prepared as a TCG player and collector heading into the release of the newest generation of Pokemon cards. But before we get started, as always, if you like today's video, definitely feel free to leave a like in order to help support the video, push it out to more people, and hey, if you really like today's content, definitely consider subscribing to become part of the Gengar Gang. Other than that, links to today's articles from the Poke Guardian and another website will be down below, so feel free to check them out if you'd like to read the articles in full. And as always, thanks again for checking out another video. Alright, let's jump right on into it. So today's video comes to us from the Poke Guardian. So this was published on December 9th, so it is a tiny bit old, but I figured I'd rather hold off on creating this video until a little bit more news broke. This way the video is a little bit more substantial, and you guys get not only some of the news about the trading card set, but also hopefully get to see some of the cards that are coming out in the set. Now, the good news is that we are getting a lot of sneak peeks from stuff over in Japan. So interestingly enough, we are able to reasonably assume that some of that stuff is going to make its way over to us. And then, of course, additionally with that, there's always usually some cards that find their way into sets. So there's already the starter set that's come out on screen right now. You can pick this up today at stores. So what's actually pretty cool is that I believe it released last Friday as of the date of the publication of this video. And you already have a chance to pick up some holo cards that are promos for the Scarlet and Violet era, or at least look like cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. So, here we are on the site. You know, obviously it's been officially unveiled that the next generation of the Pokemon TCG will be the Scarlet and Violet era, and it's going to launch with Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, it's going to cover the Paldea region, and there's going to be several major card and product changes that are actually really interesting. So in the past, over here in the English TCG, we have a very different look and feel and vibe to cards than that of our Japanese counterparts. So what's interesting is that Pokemon is basically kind of trying to make them work similarly or together or look more identical across the world, which I thought was a pretty interesting thing. So the article notes that the first thing is that, you know, and the biggest change is that the yellow borders on Pokemon trading cards, here's a picture for example, are being replaced with silver borders to match the Japanese edition of every Pokemon card. And every Pokemon card pack is also now going to contain 3 foil cards guaranteed, along with increased MSRP. So yeah, there you go. The other interesting thing is that we are seeing a return to the Pokemon EX gameplay mechanic. Now, there's a bunch of EX cards that exist in the history of the Pokemon TCG, but the first, and arguably the original, was the one that premiered in the 3rd generation of Pokemon trading cards. So that's those cards with the shiny sparkly borders, and notably a lowercase EX, not to be confused with the capital EX from the other generation that came a little bit later on. So bear in mind that there's a capital EX and a lowercase EX, and whenever we're talking about the older, definitely vintage 3rd generation of Pokemon trading cards, those are the lowercase EX trading cards. Scarlet and Violet will be bringing back that mechanic. So although it really doesn't make that big a difference, technically Scarlet and Violet is referencing the 3rd generation of the Pokemon trading card game, not the 5th or 6th generation, if I recall correctly. What's also notable about that is that obviously I think it coincides with the 20th anniversary of the release of the Pokemon TCG third generation, or the EX era of Pokemon trading cards. So for those not in the know, 2003 would be the year when EX Ruby and Sapphire officially launched. So interestingly enough, I do think that the timing of this is not coincidental. I think it's definitely on purpose, and I frankly think it's really, really cool because who knows, we might even get some kind of cool 20th anniversary set. Stranger things have happened, I don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a 25th anniversary going on right now, so Pokemon may try, I don't want to call it a dirty tactic, but they may, attempt to do something of the sort. I think that would be really cool, really interesting. Usually news of those things breaks pretty quickly. I'm not saying I've heard news of this, but it wouldn't surprise me if something like this were to come up, just because, hey, you never know, right? Other than that, the other thing that is definitely big and at play here is the new kind of gimmick. So there will be Terra types, and those Terra types will likely be, at least in some capacity, integrated into the Pokemon trading card game, similar to the way that VMAX was integrated after the Pokemon V cards from the Sword and Sheild era. Now, the set officially releases on March 31st, 2023, and yeah, that's about it. Now, in terms of the number of card designs that were also announced, there are quite a few to talk about. So, the first thing is that to match the cards published in Japan, as I said before, the yellow borders on Pokemon trading cards will now be swapped to silver. So, alone, this is going to be a pretty big swap. I personally think, and it has been noted before, that yellow border, like it or not, and agree with the change or not, is very nostalgic to us English Pokemon TCG collectors. As a result, being that Sword and Shield was the last generation to have that color, there may be a nostalgia play that comes into effect sometime very far in the future, where people really like Sword and Shield era because it has the yellow border as opposed to the silver border. So that is one thing that could potentially influence the collectability of the Sword and Shield era in general, given that obviously these yellow bordered trading cards will no longer be a thing, at least presumably for the foreseeable future, given that it would appear that Pokemon really kind of wants to make things match worldwide. All the way in Japan, all the way in the US, and everywhere in between, the cards are going to look more identical than they ever have. And the article actually notes that, saying that, yeah, it's going to create a more consistent TCG experience worldwide while enhancing the artwork. Now, the other thing is that subcategories for trainer cards like supporter and stadium cards are going to show on the upper left-hand corner to be more visible in a Pokemon player's hands. Basic energy cards will show another energy symbol in the bottom right corner to make it simpler to track energy during gameplay. And also, the top of the card will now display the name of the energy. So that's a bunch of random little things that are really aimed towards Pokemon TCG players, but A, it definitely makes a lot of sense, and B, those are just simple mechanics that they can implement to make it a more enjoyable playing experience for anybody who actually plays the Pokemon TCG. The expansion symbols are going to get swapped out for expansion codes and language codes across all cards. Now, in terms of that, I'm not necessarily the happiest. I actually really liked the set symbols. I thought they were really neat. They're very fun to put on a binder, although I will freely admit they make very little to no sense. The other thing is that if you've ever purchased any type of distributor box, so, 6 booster boxes in a booster case or 144 blisters in a booster case, what you'll notice is that they have the set numbers on them. So ironically enough, English uses it purely for labeling purposes at the distributor level, but never actually brings those codes down to the trading card level. Usually on the trading card, we'll get, some very pretty artwork that, again, means nothing to you because you barely can tell the difference between Brilliant Stars and Lost Origin. Anyways, as a result, they're now swapping the set symbols out for set codes and language codes. So something that will change a little bit in the future. I distinctly remember opening up Japanese trading cards, and the experience is very different because you'd be surprised how much you notice those little numbers in the lower left-hand corner of the card. But at least now, hopefully, it will make things a little bit easier in terms of sorting across different sets and things of the sort. So it might even help with things like organizing your cards or getting them into binders or sorting bulk. And the other big item is that it's been revealed that EX cards will show a double star rarity. So double star rarity isn't an unfamiliar prospect here in the Pokemon trading card game. Way back in, I believe, Generation 2, we did even have a triple star rarity. So it's not insane to think, but our EX cards, which presumably will be the equivalent of V cards in the Sword and Shield era or GX cards back in the Sun and Moon era, will now feature a double star rarity. So here are some of the trading cards that we see. So of course my screen is too small, but here is what one of the EX cards will look like. And let's see if I can't justify that slightly and get you guys a better look. So yes, here is what one of these cards is going to look like. As you can see down here, you've got two stars stacked kind of right next to each other. You've got the G, you've got the SVIEN, so I assume G is going to be the set code. The SVI is the Scarlet and Violet 1, I presume, and then EN, obviously English, if you couldn't tell by the fact that the card is actually in English. You can see the silver border, you've got EX, and that's lowercase, very much like the old school stuff. And yeah, other than that, a lot of people have been commenting on how cool the artworks are and how nice they look. So I'm actually excited because it seems like a lot of people are actually very happy about how these cards look, which hopefully means they will be quite popular. And frankly, I just hope people actually get to enjoy the trading cards and aren't just mad about some random little change like the silver borders or the way that basic energies have changed in the past. Lastly, but certainly not least, is the MSRP change, and this is something that will theoretically impact every product everywhere. Apparently, booster packs will rise from $3.99 to $4.49 a pack, and this is probably as a result of both collectability, the increased number of foil cards in a pack, as well as, but certainly not limited to, inflation. So, all things considered, we will now have to compete with that $4.49 price point, which theoretically means every other item in the lineup, from booster boxes to elite trainer boxes and everything of the sort, will also probably rise in value. And cost more in order to open. So, you know, the article notes here that you got those 3 foil cards guaranteed in every booster pack. All cards with a rarity of rare or higher will now be foil. So those are some of the smaller reasons why the increase, why the price has increased. And then in an effort to maintain the quality and value of the Pokemon TCG experience, yeah, you know, they got to justify raising the price somehow or the other, right? The other thing to note then is going to be the cards that have come out. So this article was posted as of the 6th. It's from bleedingcool.com. If anybody needs a couch, there's a couch. I don't know why that changed right when I clicked on the video, but okay. So yeah, here, you know, we got some more news, and now we got some really cool looking cards that we could finally get a look at. So as I mentioned, Japan, you know, actually did the thing of showing us what some of the cards are going to look like, and so now I can show you what some of the cards are going to look like. So here's what the packs in Japan look like. Obviously they split it out across the 2 box art Pokemon, so you're getting a Scarlet, you're getting a Violet, and of course here in the States we'll get a Scarlet and Violet. Other than that, character rares have made their return. So here on screen you'll see a Slowpoke, a Pachirisu, and I don't know what that Pokemon is. I'm going to look it up and put the name on screen. Other than that, you've also got a baby Riolu, and then I think the 3 cards that everyone has kind of focused in on are these 3 right here. So it's a Ralts, a Kirlia, and a Gardevoir. And what everyone is loving is the story that the 3 cards are telling. Now, in the past, Pokemon has done this before. They've had related Pokemon arts, they've had arts that kind of go across 2 Pokemon, so this isn't necessarily a new mechanic. Obviously, it's just one of those things that they're bringing back. I will say, the cards look great. I love the fact that they're character rares or character arts throughout, so they're consistent, right? So you'll have them both for the basic Pokemon, the Stage 1 Pokemon, but also the Stage 2 Pokemon that also happens to be a EX Pokemon. So I really do think it's pretty cool. One thing to note, you'll notice that it's 83, 84, and 101, and interestingly enough, they're not in order, so that's the first thing that I note. The other thing is that the rarities are kind of different. It's AR, AR, and then SAR. I assume it's some kind of art rare, and then secret art rare, even though technically they're all considered secret rarities based on the fact that the number of the card is greater than the set number. And so that's a summary of some of the character rares or full art rares or whatever you choose to call them that you may end up seeing in the Scarlet and Violet base set. Now, the last thing I wanted to show is some other cards that our friends over at PokeBeach actually had their hands on. So this article is really cool. I like this one because it kind of basically also summarizes everything we just spoke about. But more importantly, we also get some additional details which I think will be pretty neat. So just as an example, they show you some of the other Pokemon that will be in the set. So here is the EX Arcanine, and it's also the Terraform Arcanine. So you get a really good idea of kind of what these cards are going to end up looking like. And there are actually quite a few of them. So you have a Ampharos, a Flaffy, and here's the EX version of that card. This one is not Terraform. You have just a regular Mimikyu. So yeah, you have some really good looks at some of the cards. Obviously these are in Japanese, but I would assume we will also get them in English, pretty much 1-to-1, at least for the base set of this particular expansion set of the Scarlet and Violet era. In the future, however, I do think we are going to likely see that typical split that we usually do between the English and the Japanese, where because the Japanese trading card game usually releases a few months earlier or ahead of us, oftentimes the English TCG will be forced to combine or, you know, mix and match cards from different sets. Obviously, since there's only one set so far, we're probably going to end up getting a 1-to-1 recreation for the base set. However, in future sets, I expect we might see some dropouts from one set get added to another, or other cards turned into promo cards that end up in some of our Elite Trainer boxes or various boxes of the sort. But with all that said, some of my high-level thoughts. Obviously, everything is a little bit more expensive nowadays, including Pokemon cards, so it does kind of stink that cards are going up 50 cents US. You know, that's 1/8 the price. The cards are increasing in cost, so it does kind of stink. I do think we are getting maybe a little bit more in a pack of Pokemon cards, so that does kind of help. We will get 3 foil cards guaranteed in every single pack, so I think what they're trying to do there is effectively kind of make it something like that special feeling you got when you got like a really loaded pack from a set that contained a trainer gallery. Obviously, from sets like that, you could pull something out of the regular rare slot as well as the reverse rare slot. And so, although the mechanic is shifting a little bit, it is shifting a little bit more towards the player in terms of favorability. The other thing to note is that I do think the silver borders are going to be a little bit of a nostalgia play, because as we continue to see more silver borders, the yellow borders might be something people miss, and that might increase the potential appeal of sets like the Sword and Shield era, like the Sun and Moon era, because people will remember those yellow borders more fondly than they will the silver borders. I do think that EX rarity is going to be an interesting thing to watch in the coming years, mainly because, obviously, like I said, with the original EX era having dropped in 2003, and this being the 20th anniversary of that, it wouldn't surprise me if we caught a special set that, you know, maybe featured some throwback cards or a trainer gallery of some sort. We did see a few Gold Star era cards get a nod in celebrations, but I would be curious to see if they go that way with something maybe in the coming months or even years. And the reason it could be years and not just in 2023, which is the 20th anniversary, is because EX cards released from 2003 to 2007. meaning we technically have till 2027 to get a set of quote-unquote EX era cards, or some sort of special set that kind of circulates around them. And it would make sense, because for the most part, special sets will often contain special cards of that generation. So, you know, for Hidden Fates, it was GX cards, so we got shiny GX cards. And similarly, I would assume that we will see something similar happen when we inevitably get a special set for the Scarlet and Violet era. And my last thought on this particular, set is that it is the mark of a new generation. So I think what's really cool is that we will see Scarlet and Violet kind of take off this year. We'll presumably get 2, 3, maybe even 4 sets this year. It really kind of depends. There is even a small possibility we get and or at least receive news of our first special set. If you're looking at the Sword and Sheild era, Shining Fates was released the year after the base set, so we got it in February when the prior year the base set had released. So in theory, there is also a possibility that we will really kind of full swing into the Scarlet and Violet era, which I'm also quite excited for, mainly because, you never know what else we will see from this era of Pokemon. It seems like Pokemon's putting in a lot of effort, really kind of focusing in on the art, so I'm curious to see where that goes. Obviously, this also theoretically means the retirement of alternate arts, at least for now. It wouldn't surprise me if Scarlet and Violet brings them back either in base set or in the future, once they give it a little bit of a break. But honestly, when you're looking at things like the character rares, I personally think those might as well be alternate arts, and hopefully they don't come in the same sort of context as Sword and Shield alternate arts, meaning I really hope they're not as hard to pull, because it would really stink if that was the case. And yeah, so I'm super excited for Scarlet and Violet. Let me know down below your thoughts. But other than that, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like. And hey, if you're not already, consider subscribing to become part of the Gengar Gang. Other than that, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. Links will be down below. Let me know your thoughts down below, and we will talk soon. Peace!